who is unable to assist whatsoever, but she is able to support herself sitting in a chair. So what we'd like to do is we'd like to transfer the patient from the bed into a chair or onto a commode, which with a commode you can bring them over the toilet or you can bring them into the shower. It's exactly the same concept or same principles that you apply for whether it's a commode or for a chair. So we have a Hoyer lift here that we will use to lift the patient up, and we have the sling that's associated with the Hoyer lift. Some slings are disposable, others must be laundered. You just need to ask at the facility. So you'll notice that there are red handles. These handles are going to go on the outside, so the inner blue part is going to be what's touching the patient's skin or their clothing. Okay? Just like your slide sheets, you're going to slip this under the patient. Ideally, the sling must be under their bottom. The bottom edge of the sling must be under their bottom, and ideally it will support their shoulders as well. Okay? It doesn't have to support the head, although if it does, that's just a bonus. Okay, so now we're going to get this under our patient. So I'm going to ask you to bend your knee, cross your arm over to your side, and I'm just going to push. And then my partner nurse will support her. I'll take this, tuck it under. And again, I want it to be centered under the patient. It's very important to get the sling positioning right. If you do not have it right, you will need to reposition it well before you put her in the hoist. Okay, we're going to roll you back the other way, so bend your right leg, cross over. I do not pull her, I just guide her and support her. Okay, you can roll back down. So we're going to attach this around the waist, okay? It doesn't always, not all slings have this to go around the waist. And then we're going to put these under the legs. Okay. Yeah, we will. Okay. So to me, this looks like it's perfectly centered under the patient. Okay. That the Velcro would come up. So here there's Velcro. Okay. So depending on your facility, you might attach it. Okay. And then we're going to bring the hoist. So we'll switch spots. Some facilities, if you lower the bed too far, you won't be able to actually slip the hoist legs underneath the bed, so you just need to be aware of that. Now, there are clips here. The number one most important thing is that whatever color I put into the clip, my partner needs to match up the color on the other side. So are you able to lower this down even further? As low as you can. Perfect. And are we able to move the hoist slide over? Yeah. Perfect. Okay. So the brakes go on prior to you starting to attach the hoist. Okay. So blue. And you want to do red or blue? Oh yeah. Cross them.
Oh, I just think we don't need to. In this instance, I wouldn't cross them.
No? Okay. Sometimes you'll cross the legs, other times you won't. It just depends. Some slings, if the legs aren't crossed, they pull the legs quite wide. Other slings do quite fine. So in this case, we're not crossing the legs. We're both attaching the red. Okay, so you always use two nurses when you are using a hoist. One nurse is responsible for the machine, the other nurse is responsible for the patient. My job is to watch the patient, making sure nothing's getting caught where it shouldn't, that she's fully lifting up properly, and that she's not at risk for banging her feet on anything or her head on anything. So what we're going to do is we're going to lift her up and move her to a chair. Now, while we're waiting for the hoist as it's lifting her up, I could also lower the bed so that we go a little bit quicker and more efficiently.
So make sure you tuck in there.
Yep. Your patient will need to support their head. You might need to assist them a little bit just while they get started.
How does that feel?
Feels okay?
Secure?
Okay.
Looking that right? Ready to go?
Yep. So brakes now come off once we're ready to move the patient. And just stay put there for a moment. Because this does swing around, oftentimes we move the patient's legs so they're on either side of the hoist. And that'll kind of stop her from spinning around. I have one hand on my patient at all times.
Separate the leg and the hoist at the bottom.
Yep, so the legs of the hoist have been opened. We're moving the patient. Oops. Yeah. Now here, there's handles on the back, so being careful not to have my hands squished. I can help pull her back, or I can push. And we're going to lower the hoist.
I'll just move this back a bit. You all right there?
Once her bottom is on the ground, my hand automatically comes to the bar just to make sure it doesn't accidentally conk her in the head. Keep my hands on the bar until it's loose enough. Once it's low enough, I let my partner know, and we can take off the sling.
Okay, I'm just going to move
Watch
this
your
out.
feet.
Watch your feet.
Okay. All right, and then we take the sling out from under the patient. So slip this out, slip the other part under the legs, and have you just sit forward for a moment, and it just comes right out. You do the opposite to get the patient back into bed. Put the sling behind, under the legs, and bring her over to the bed.